All right, well, we've come here to this, well, it's meant to be a park, but it's actually you can see a dense area of forest outside of Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, where that Belarusian dissident, Vitaly Shishova, was found dead, hanging from a tree over here, just a few hours before we got here. So we've actually got right to the scene. And the actual tree, where we understand that he was found by police in the early hours of Tuesday morning, hanging by his neck here. And if you, I don't know whether you can see this on the camera, you probably can't. The police have taken the rope away, but it was hanging from this branch above the ground, maybe 12 feet above the ground. We're also told by the police there were some steps arranged here, makeshift steps using logs. There was a cell phone that belonged to Vitaly Shishova as well. But it's all been taken away by the authorities, who are doing forensic tests to try and get to the bottom of it. And here, look, you can see some of the forensic teams have left their rubber gloves on the floor here, which they've used obviously to pick up any evidence that they can. Some of the most important evidence is from the body itself, and obviously there's an autopsy being undertaken at the moment. But according to the latest police report, there were, abrasions on the face and on the knees of Vitaly. It looked like, in the words of the police, that he'd fallen at least once. One of his colleagues who saw the body before it was taken away said that it looked like Vitaly had the scars of a violent death. And so that's obviously feeding in to all the suspicions that are percolating and circulating around this mysterious death. Okay. Well, look, you can see there's all bits of rubbish scattered around this whole area. It's obviously where there's been a campfire. It's a place that is, kind of used, even though it's quite isolated. It's obviously used by the local walkers and things like that. And it's where Vitaly went jogging several times a week through these forest paths, and of course, he went jogging one morning and didn't come back. The question of who he was, I think, is relevant because, as I said, Vitaly Shishova was, within the Belarusian community here in Ukraine, relatively prominent. He ran something called the Belarusian House, which helped people escape from Belarus and escape the regime of Alexander Lukashenko. And then when they got to Ukraine, he found them work, helped to find them housing and things like that. He also organised protests and campaigns against the regime in Minsk. And so he was a known enemy of the authorities in Belarus. And that, as I say, could be relevant. The mystery of why this happened, the authorities say they're reserving judgment on. In fact, what the police say is at the moment they're looking at two possibilities. This was either murder or it was suicide, or possibly murder that was made to look like suicide. Now, everyone in public office here, the prosecutors, the government officials in Ukraine, have stopped short of pointing the finger of blame directly at the Belarusian state. But there's definitely been a pattern of increasingly autocratic, tyrannical behaviour by President Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus. Just a couple of days ago, a Belarusian Olympic sprinter, of course, was attempted to be bundled out of Japan back to Belarus after she criticised her coaches. Earlier this year, another Belarusian dissident was flying on an aeroplane over Belarusian airspace when it was forced down onto the ground in Minsk, and he was taken off it and is still in detention now. Everyone's reserving judgment at this stage about who's responsible for this death. But if it is found to be the Belarusians, the Belarusian state, it would obviously mark a major escalation in that country's autocracy. Matthew Chance, CNN, in the forests outside of Kiev, Ukraine.